Hello and welcome to Why Your Posture Matters. This is a little lecture, basically talking about posture and how it affects health. So, just wanted to welcome you. I do appreciate you taking the time out to go through and listen through to some of this information. Again, there's a lot of different posture-related compromises and issues that people can have. So, it's always a good thing to learn about how you can affect these things. So, it's always a good idea of trying to figure out why I would be talking about something like this. My name is Dr. Brian Royer. I am a chiropractor. I have specialties in sports medicine and in functional neurology. I also have a multitude of different other certifications. I also instruct at Owens Community College here in the area. So I've got a little bit of expertise. Obviously, posture is kind of like you could say my bread and butter kind of deal. It's one of those kind of things that I deal with on a daily type of basis with trying to help people fix their posture, correct it, and uh, improve things. So basically, the question is that why would posture be so important? And basically, here's the thing: is that most of us were never really taught about proper posture. Again, this is not like the 1950s and the 60s kind of thing. You don't have, you might have your grandma yelling at you a little bit on trying to stand up straight, but things were more important in the past. Um, again, like when it comes to posture, again, we don't have large scale like drills in school about trying to tell us to sit up straight and not hunching your back. You don't have, classes in school about not carrying your school bag on one shoulder, even if it's what cool kids are doing. So, and, you know, even if you did with having some of those kind of things, for sure you were never taught why. Um, you may have been told by your grandma to sit up straight, but the likelihood is that you don't know why it's a good idea other than just, because I said so. So again, the majority of us go around unconscious of our posture, unaware of our posture, of the effect that it has on your own body and basically people around you, your environment. So you end up being oblivious to the potential for maximizing those energetic levels that having proper posture can provide you. So we're going to talk about a couple of different things today in order to like why it is of benefit in order to help fix your posture. So we'll get into it. So bone alignment. This is kind of, obvious. There's a couple of them in here that are going to be fairly obvious, and it makes sense. But bone alignment is one of them. And one of the major reasons why is to make sure that your bones and your muscles are going to grow correctly and they continue to flourish in the healthiest type of alignment that you can have. Again, particularly for children and young people, again, the people who have not reached their maximum height, this is going to be especially important. So, if you've not finished that growth stage of development, again, it is going to be vital to maintain a healthy posture, especially in the spine. So, the way to think about it is in terms of like a bone fracture or a break. In order for you to make sure that that break or fracture heals right, you have to make sure that it's held in place and that it doesn't really move, that it's aligned properly, and that it's maintained there in order to make sure that it doesn't heal incorrectly. Again, it can actually be bad to the point where a bad fracture can actually develop another joint, which is a whole different story. But the same kind of thing can be held can be talked about when it comes to bones and ligaments that aren't fully formed. Again, even when you are fully formed, you can have different issues with it, but especially when a person has not fully formed. Again, as bones are growing, if you end up having an altered type of pressure in the joint, you can end up having more growth on one side than the other. So it can make it hard for has somebody who has been growing and has been constantly slouching to actually be able to stand up straight in the first place. um, Again, the position of the body in its ultimate state or its optimal state with regards to gravity and those forces that are working against it, again, is going to be what posture is, right? So you try to position that your body in the optimum type of state in regards to gravity and the forces working against it, in order to basically, in reality, it doesn't necessarily seem like it, but having good posture in a way is actually kind of being lazy, because it's the most efficient position for your body to be in. It doesn't feel like that for people because they just have not great posture in the first place. But again, the key to helping us heal, grow, and manifest the healthiest possible way that we can for some of our bones is going to be to have good posture. And you can find more information about this on the American Chiropractic website, aceatoday.org. There's some information about how to correct body alignment when it comes to posture that's on there, if you wanted to look into that a little bit. So when it comes to muscular alignment is another thing that is super important. Again, similarly, you end up having bones that not only do bones develop and they strengthen when they're aligned in the right way, but healthy posture is going to help to make sure that the muscles are going to grow correctly too. The muscular composition is going to be constantly changing depending on what kind of exercises that we're doing and what kind of things that we do. Um, and like if you are engaging muscles or if you're not engaging muscles, so exercise versus non-exercise, again, the more that the muscle ends up being cultivated or worked in certain types of movement patterns, the more they actually grow into that form. So basically, the from the standpoint of, when we talk about nerves, there's something called plasticity when it comes to the nervous system, which is a big thing that you can get into. But there's the same kind of this plasticity, which ability to change is really what that means. Is there's this plasticity that you end up having in the muscular system as well. There's all kinds of different things where muscles will adapt to the stresses that are placed upon them. So if you talk about exercise, again, when she's doing this tricep push down that's here, that's going to be engaging her triceps. Again, doing that over and over again is going to overload her tricep, and it's going to cause a change to happen. So the person is going to be able to get more strength in the tricep. Again, you can end up getting muscle growth in it. So there's a number of different things that can end up happening based on what the person is actually trying to do. So again, the correct alignment of muscles ends up having a direct correlation to the alignment of bones and the rest of the skeletal system. So if you make sure that the muscles are aligned or the muscles are working the way that they should, that helps to make sure that the skeleton is aligned as well. So, and again, the same kind of thing. So the idea is that if the muscles are aligned, and again, what that can mean is that can mean tightness from front to back or left to right. So there's classic kind of cases where people can get an upper cross syndrome, where they have tightness in the traps and tightness in the pecs in the front, and then the upper back doesn't have a lot of tightness. They might have their shoulders rolled forward and other kinds of stuff. That creates problems when it comes to the joints and the bones, and it also can create problems when it comes to the muscles. So, and again, when that thing is going to be repeatedly off for a long period of time, again, that can cause some lasting damage. The correct alignment of muscles has a direct correlation to the correct alignment of bones and the skeletal system. And again, if you end up getting everything misaligned, then the muscles are going to be misaligned as well. So when it comes down to it, again, maintaining the proper skeletal alignment is going to be important, but um, you can't really position muscles without making sure that the skeleton is aligned correctly. And basically, one example of this is going to end up being yoga. So, yoga, the movements and the postures that you hold in yoga are going to be strengthening the muscles which surround and protect the spinal column, but it doesn't actually have an influence over the spine itself. But it's going to have a lot of benefit on the muscles that support and protect it. So again, as you take those muscles and strengthen them out over time, you are going to end up having a good layer of protection that surrounds the spinal column, that surrounds the spine itself. And again, it can help to maintain that optimum kind of postural alignment. So again, there's all kinds of different stuff that's out there about um, yoga and Pilates and Tai Chi and other kinds of things that can help to help with muscular alignment. So, joint health is another thing. The surface of your joints and the interaction that the bones have in relation to one another is going to be basically the foundation of postural and joint health. The human skeleton is going to be obviously very carefully structured. There's a different network or a web of the joints and the connections and how they're going to interact in order to provide what's called considered to be optimum posture. So correct posture is going to decrease the abnormal wearing of joint surfaces. So that's the thing about joints, is that joints can end up getting worn because they end up having too much use in an area, or they can also basically have a lack of use. So they end up getting stiff and they have a lack of movement. So um, when you end up having this articular cartilage, when it gets abnormally worn, you can end up having an issue where the cartilage gets worn down and has a problem with growing. Right, cartilage in and of itself doesn't really have a blood supply, so if you end up having any damage that occurs to the cartilage, it doesn't repair itself the same way that you would with like getting a scar or something like that. And that wearing down the cartilage can occur from misaligned periods of movement, having problems with exercise, and having issues with the ability to move and the ability to align the body. If you end up having issues with that, then that's going to be something that is going to relate to with problems with posture. If your body is misaligned, then the misalignment can end up creating an uneven wear on the joints. So one of the ways to help fix that is to try to align the joints properly in order to prevent the issues with mobility and issues with uneven wear on the joints. So this incorrect posture over time, it can lead to development of certain types of diseases. You can get different types of osteoarthritis. You can get osteoporosis if you're not loading the joints properly and you don't have proper nutrition. Osteochondritis is the inflammation of the cartilage that's associated with the bones. Scoliosis, things along those lines. So when the joints are going to end up being kept in a proper posture and alignment, it's going to increase the likelihood that the muscles will be strengthened in order to suit their alignment. And that is going to obviously strengthen the entire posture in the body. So another thing that can be affected by posture is breathing. And that's something that people don't necessarily think about, but breathing is an important thing. Sorry, taking a little coffee break. But breathing is an important thing when it comes to posture. It is, breathing, the amount that somebody is able to breathe in certain postures um, can be limited based on where they're at. So when it comes down to it, again, breathing is something that is obviously super important, um, but we don't necessarily think of breathing being something that gets affected by posture. Usually you think of, things like the legs and the arms and um, the movement that's going to be going around. That's easier to see. So when you talk about the rib cage and the diaphragm area, that isn't necessarily something to think of as being important when it comes to posture. So when you talk about the actual physiology of breathing, we can get into an entire thing on this. And I do, several hours of lecture on breathing when it comes to the A&P class that I teach at Owens. But we won't bother you with all of that stuff. But the idea is that most people don't breathe using most of their lung capacity. And again, I'm not talking about like all the time. I'm talking about when you need it. You're not going to be taking deep breaths all the time. But the idea is that you're using only about 30% on a regular basis. But the idea is that you have the ability to use more than what you probably currently can. Again, there are issues when it comes to energetic potential that you can get from increasing your capacity. So, again, most of the time people can't breathe very well. So for an example, like if you take a deep breath in, as big of a breath as you can, and then blow it all the way out and hold it, how long can you hold it for? You know, and you hold it and don't let yourself breathe. Don't do that. Can you hold it for 30 seconds? Because you should be able to. If you want to pause it right here and go ahead and try it, go ahead and try it. But you should be able to hold your breath for a good 30 seconds without needing to breathe. A lot of times people can't do that. So again, if you can increase your ability to breathe, then that is going to help your health just in general. Again, singers and public speakers can be aware of the effect that correct posture can have on the efficiency of breathing. Again, people that end up having breathing complications obviously would benefit from improving their posture. So people that have COPD or chronic emphysema, chronic asthma, those kind of things would obviously benefit from postural changes. Same kind of thing when it comes to people that have regular asthma, can typically benefit from postural changes. Athletes, especially endurance athletes, if they have bad posture, can benefit from endurance change or can benefit from postural changes. So just as the muscles that are in the spinal column will protect the spine and allow it to strengthen, the muscles in the diaphragm and the rib cage, um, again, those can benefit um, from working on breathing in order to optimize it. Again, when you straighten out the spine and you reduce the tilt of the pelvis, that can help to open up the rib cage and relax certain muscles in the belly. Again, that can allow you more freedom to move the diaphragm to take deeper breaths. And again, utilizing that lung capacity to its full extent has so many different benefits that extend well past good posture. But again, it is definitely a good place to start. And again, even so, to the point where we actually will use breathing as we're trying to improve somebody's posture in order to loosen them up and try to get them to go further into it. Again, you can, look at, there's multiple studies that, and we'll talk about that. There's even studies that you can look up about how if you have brass players in an orchestra, that improving their posture and how that affects them and with what they do. So there's a bunch of different interesting things that you can find about breathing and how that affects the body. So there's other postural associated types of complications that can be there, and it's more than just breathing can be affected. So that you can have multiple different illnesses that end up getting affected by posture complications. So posture can be a contributing factor in a couple of the things that we're going to talk about here. So for example, shoulder and back pain. This one is hopefully a little bit more obvious for people, but if you have poor postural habits, you can end up getting upper back and shoulder pain. So pain in between your shoulder blades, and pain like in the shoulder joint itself. So where the arm meets the torso. I'm not just talking about like it can also cause like issues with, some people will call the trapezius area the shoulder as well. And that can also have an effect with a person that ends up having bad posture. So again, when you tense those muscles in the upper back for prolonged periods of time, you can end up having pain and discomfort. It's pretty simple. So, people that are going to be sitting at a desk for a long period of time, or if you're hunched over for a long period of time, that can be a little bit more likely to cause problems. Another thing that's an interesting thing is that people that have gastrointestinal and digestive discomfort, again, posture is something that can be related to that. Leaning the head too far forwards can have an effect on your digestive health. Again, you can end up compressing the stomach and the intestinal area when someone is slumped forward. If that's occurring for long periods of time, that can ultimately mess with your digestion. It can cause problems with bowel movements. Again, that's one of the ideas of moving your body as much as possible. And again, why you can end up having issues with in the typical type of office setting with desk jobs, and how that might be a little bit less popular. Standing desks are going to be a good thing. Being able to move, the walking desks. I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, but being able to move around ends up being important, and that can have an effect on your GI tract and your digestion, and having discomfort and constipation and things along those lines. Another one is obviously people that get shortness of breath. Um, from the overcompression of the rib cage and the lack of the ability to expand because a person is curled in. They don't have the ability to extend their thoracic spine, and that can contribute to issues with shortness of breath. Again, if a person is able to help to fix that posture, that's going to be something that's going to affect the person's shortness of breath that they might be having. Fatigue is another thing. Again, if you're not breathing right, that's going to be one thing that contributes to fatigue. But the posture can affect your energy levels. Again, if you have a bad postural stance, not only are the lungs going to be compressed, but and that will not allow us to get enough oxygen into the body. But the muscles will be compressed, and you can require extra energy in order to hold yourself in that position. So you're using more energy to just sit there and exist than what you would if you were just sitting in a better type of posture. So you wind up spending more energy than what you do. And at the same time, you're also not getting enough oxygen in order to run the system. So fatigue is one of the things that can be related to that. Again, if the muscles are going to be cultivated to grow and expand in the correct direction from the outset, there's going to be less energy spent on making them go in a unnatural type of way. So that means that if you're spending less energy on holding your head up, then you're going to be able to spend more of that energy on life and enjoying it. So, for example, the classic kind of thing of what I mean by this is that typically in the office, I balance. I hold up a stick vertically, and I have a patient hold it, and then I'll take that stick and kind of like have them cheat their, to the side, like holding onto a bat, like down at the bottom. If you balance it, it's not really that heavy, but if you lean it to the side, it becomes heavier. It doesn't seem like it changes it all that much, but it adds a little bit of torque. So it's the same kind of thing of what happens with your head. If your head is balanced over top of the rest of the system the way that it's supposed to be, then you typically aren't overworking muscles in order to hold your head in place. But if your head is moved forward by an inch, you use about your body has to contract at about 10 pounds of force in order to hold your head in that position. And that happens for every inch. So if your head is 3 inches ahead of where it should be, then your body is contracting, and it's holding about 30 extra pounds than what it should be in order to hold your head there. So the muscles are going to get tight by doing that. They're also going to use up energy in that process as well. So again, you can check those postural habits that you have in the workplace and at home, and you can try to investigate some of the tendencies that you have in order to see if that has an effect on your energy levels. So people that have chronic fatigue syndrome, again, often they have postural correcting exercises as part of their treatment will help them to improve the alignment of the bones and help to improve their energy during the day as well. Another thing that happens with when posture goes wrong is that that can affect your circulatory health. So your circulatory health is going to be uh, again, it doesn't necessarily always make a lot of sense to people when it comes to your circulation being as a result of poor posture. But again, you have the movement of the rib cage and the diaphragm, and how that can increase the amount of oxygen supply that you have. Again, good circulation is going to require the presence of sufficient amounts of oxygen in the bloodstream in order to help make sure that it functions well. So making sure that you're breathing better is going to affect how well that the body is receiving oxygen in the other areas. Um, there's other issues when it comes to mobility issues, and if a person has more issues with mobility, it can become increasingly more difficult to, help fix the problem. So when when it comes to posture and more serious type of issues, the if it happens, I if bad posture lasts for a longer period of time, then it's going to take longer for you to correct it. Most people fail to act until they begin to experience the implications of a problem. So again, by helping to correct your posture beforehand, you can help to prevent issues with circulation, especially when it comes to issues with breathing. So learning how to maximize your posture in situations where you have to be stationary. So if you're at a desk and you're sitting and you're not moving, again, you have to be you have it has to be something that ends up being a priority. So the tendency to hunch the shoulders as you sit there, stoop the neck, stick out your chin, compress the abdomen, all of that contributes to bad circulation and that feeling of stagnation with the blood, fatigue at the end of an office day. It's not just the work itself; it's all of that kind of combining together. And again, there are some other stuff that you can do again when you're stationary. Again, easy ways to move, making sure that you take breaks, all that other kind of stuff, and moving around on a semi-regular basis. That is going to be something that's going to be helpful. So, again, you should move your body as much as possible during those times. Try to stand if you can, in order to so that you're not being super fatigued after sitting all day long, which doesn't seem like it should make you tired, but it still can. So another thing that's important is communication and body language when it comes to posture. So one of the things that people don't necessarily realize is that it's easier to effectively communicate with someone who is in a calm, relaxed, open, and positive type of frame of mind than somebody who is closed off. So if they're grumpy or grouchy, they're tired, they're unwilling to negotiate, again, they're closed off and their body is actually like closed in on itself, that's going to be harder to communicate with people. All of those can be basically changed based on our body language, which has a direct relation to posture. I mean, literally, if you think about the two ends of the spectrum, if you think of like Eeyore on one end, where again depression and everything is slumped down, versus like someone who's like a perky cheerleader who's excited about life, you can picture that in your mind on the differences with body language. So when you're communicating with somebody, again, how you are coming off to them uh, is going to be important on how they experience you. So a person's experience of you is going to be obviously connected to how um, how you're coming across. So if you are coming across like you're disinterested, or you have your arms crossed, or they're folded in, and all that other kind of stuff, there's all kinds of different body language issues that people can have. So again, the flow of oxygen, blood, energy around the body is going to be more balanced in somebody that ends up having better posture, but that's going to be basically conveyed to other people. Bad posture can cause energy to basically get stuck in certain areas of the body. Um, and it makes it so that it's hard for you to communicate that out. When it comes to making sure that your energy is good with people, having posture is going to be something that's going to that is going to have something that is going to affect that and how other people experience communicating with you. Again, having that open type of body posture is going to be make it so that it is more pleasant to actually talk with somebody, as opposed to somebody being closed off. The other thing that ends up being a major kind of a player in that is actually when it comes to self-defense. And that's something that people don't necessarily think of. So if you think about somebody who has an issue with, again, this is not everything, and this is not, I'm not trying to victim blame or anything like that. But one of the things that is super important um, when it comes to self-defense is being aware of your surroundings. So being stuck in a phone with your head down isn't a good thing, but there is a tendency for predators of all kinds to prey on people who appear to be weak. Somebody who has a upright posture, who is paying attention, um, it makes you appear stronger. If you are slumped forward, there is an appearance of weakness or maybe being passive. When it comes to having a situation where a person ends up having bad posture, that can make you more likely to be a victim. And it's horrible to think about that, but it is something that has implications. So a person should be able to, you know, being aware of their position and like, like the whole like puffed up kind of posture that somebody gets when there's a threat. Again, if you are, confident and have your shoulders back and your head upright, that can make a person less likely in order to be a target. So anyway, moving on. So spine health, and this is kind of like, again, exactly in my wheelhouse. When it comes to the spine, again, there's multiple different types of things that are going on. You got a lot of nerves, you got a lot of muscles, a lot of pathways that are going through the spine. Um, Correct posture is going to be more than just cosmetic. Again, that is something that is part of it, but it's going to be an overall factor of having good spinal health is to have good posture. So the spine is such an integral part of the human body. It's connected to everything we do and how we think. Maximizing that spinal health is going to help you function better overall, meaning that no matter how bad your external experiences are on any kind of given day, again, the different internal processing, the organs, the circulatory health are all going to be maximized when you have better spinal health. Back and neck pain are going to be two common complaints, obviously, that people have with poor posture. And anybody that ends up um, having poor posture over a long period of time is going to end up damaging the spine. It's not something that you pay for, when you just have spine for like a bad posture in your spine for like a day, but you do it for months and years and stuff like that. And definitely it catches up to you. And then it takes a long time for a person to actually get out of that. So that stress of poor posture, it can change the anatomical characteristics of the spine, leading to problems with constricted blood vessels, problems with nerves. The lack of movement can end up having problems with the joints as well. You can end up having issues with the muscles, the discs, the joints, and all of that are going to be contributing factors to back and neck pain, as well as issues with headache, fatigue, and then even concerns with other problems with the organs or breathing, as we've already discussed. Another thing is going to be functional movement. So functional movement is going to be one of those things that it's obviously like a big talking point that people talk about, because functional movement is something that we talk about in the fitness world, and it's been kind of more of a craze. And while you know it's always been about functional movement, it's just people using that term functional movement. Basically, functional movement is going to be making sure that you're using repetition and engagement of specific muscle groups and areas of the body with organic type of movements. Basically what that's talking about is that a non-natural movement would be something that you don't do. So the way that I look at it is that somebody that's doing like the machines in a gym isn't usually going to be an organic type of movement that you do on a daily basis. Doing something like a lunge, like it's showing her do, or a kettlebell swing, or a squat, those kind of things are going to be more functional movements that are using multiple different joints and are going to be using multiple different types of areas of the body. So that's going to be more of what a functional movement is. It's better than just trying to like isolate down muscles, unless you're a bodybuilder who's like, needing to grow their bicep a little bit more. For the most part, it's better to do more areas of the body and more joints. Again, the when we have more functional movements, again, those are going to be designed more to access um, the the different types of natural movement that you end up having in the body. Is that when we end up having our bodies, again, our bodies might look the same, but again, mobility and function are all going to be different between different people. So not everybody is going to have the same type of strength, the same type of shape, the same type of movement. Again, especially when it comes to mobility and flexibility, that's going to be different between people, and not all exercises are going to be the same. Again, posture is going to be one of those things that ends up being important. You start doing some of these exercises, especially when you're loading things. If you end up having poor posture and you don't have great movement, then you don't have the ability to do the exercises as well. So postural correction is going to be usually part of that, an initial type of functional movement assessment. Like when we do in our office the selective functional movement assessment, we are using posture as part of that, as what we do. um, Again, everyone has to have good posture before you really start getting in, with really good exercises. There's going to be some things that poor posture might prevent somebody from doing. Like maybe you shouldn't be loading exercises over top of your head if you can't get your arm over top of your head correctly. Again, if you're not able to lift your arm over your head the right way, then you've got to twist or do other things in order to get your arm where you need to be so that you can actually use a heavier weight. And it's just not a good idea. So it might be a good idea to work on improving that functional movement before you end up, starting to, really load some of these exercises. So posture and mood is another thing. um, Again, there's a whole lot of correlation that you can get between proper posture and having a better mood. Again, due to a number of reasons. Again, it's most evident when it comes to some of the recent discoveries in studies between the gut and the brain. Again, your posture is going to be related to how well that your gut works. And that is kind of surprising for some, but that is something that there are connections. So when an individual is not engaging their, posture correctly, you can end up having problems with the gastrointestinal tract, like we talked about. So you can end up having pressure or compression in one way or another, and you can end up having issues with indigestion or problems with complication. Basically, you can end up having issues with the absorption that you can get in the gut. So the lack of proper digestion and absorption of the nutrients in the gut can contribute to, problems with the gut-brain axis. So the gut's ability to absorb and process nutrients has a direct effect on the different types of neurotransmissions to the brain and how the brain works in general. Again, um, there's more information that you can get on the gut brain connection. There's the gut brain connection is at health.harvard.edu. There's other things that are at the Ohio State website, um, that are talking about, um, image and self image, about how the sensation about, people that have better posture feel a little bit taller, and that has a perception on a person's self-worth. So there is something that you can find from the psychology department at Ohio State that, is about that from a 2009 study. Uh, Posture and fitness. Again, when you're sitting down or standing, you should always be aware of your posture. When you're working out, you need to be aware of your posture as well to make sure that you will have the proper type of alignment when doing, an exercise. Um, Again, you have to have proper form. That is super important. You want to make sure that the body stays safe as you're trying to place the strain on areas that need to be strained in order to improve their function. Again, weightlifting sessions and other types of exercise, that have, external pressures on the body, again, is vital in making sure that a person stays healthy. Again, it can be difficult if you're accustomed to performing certain physical tasks in a certain way, um, but you need to make sure that you have those fundamentals down and that your body is moving correctly and that it has good posture while it's actually doing it. So people that have problems with imbalances in the muscles and ligaments that from poor posture, can lead to problems like chronic neck, back, shoulder pain. You can end up getting issues or injuries in your feet, your knees, your hips, headaches, feeling stiff in general, getting problems with nerve compression or impingements, sciatica, carpal tunnel syndrome, all of those are going to be affected by a person's posture. So when it comes to body awareness and something called proprioception, which proprioception is a super, super, super important thing. Basically, proprioception is talking about body awareness. It's the medical term for that, of knowing where your body is in space. Um, this is a huge thing to do um, with pain and other kinds of stuff. So again, studies have shown that people that have higher levels of body awareness generally have lower intensities of physical illness than those that end up having lower awareness. So what that means is that people that know where their body is in space and are able to control their body in space are going to end up having the tendency to have less physical problems than people that don't know where their body is in space. So again, there's theories that like simply being more aware of your body, you reduce the likelihood of basically getting imbalances and having problems with illness and poor posture. So the example of where you can end up doing that is that some people don't know how to control their pelvic tilt. There are loads and loads and loads of people that don't know how to tuck their hips under and um, basically like posteriorly pelvic tilt or to anteriorly pelvic tilt. So basically, for lack of a better term, to stand and have your body go through like a thrust and then tuck it back and go back and forth with the hips. Many people don't know how to do that. Many people don't know how to hinge their hips in order to properly do things like a deadlift or a kettlebell swing, where they are constantly like rounding their back as they do it, and they don't know how to just move it from the hips. Another thing that ends up being that's literally an issue that happens is that if you were to blindfold somebody and attach a laser basically to their head and have them pointing basically straight ahead on a person, basically where if you're having sorry, like I had something that happened with my monitor here, but if you end up having a yeah, going back. So if you end up having an issue with the person is looking straight ahead and you have the laser that's pointing straight ahead and they close their eyes and they move their head back and forth and they shake it in like a no or a yes, and then you have the person stop at where that started from and then open their eyes and check to see where it is. A lot of people that end up having problems with neck pain don't have the ability to be very accurate with where they were. So if you're looking straight ahead and you close your eyes, now turn your head all the way to the left as far as you can. Now turn it all the way to the right as far as you can. Now turn it back to the middle where you were looking and open up and see if you're pointing in the same place. A lot of people can't do that, that end up having problems with neck pain. So the ability to improve their knowledge of where their neck is in space ends up decreasing their pain. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in that, and this is a super, super important thing. This is why I think that proprioception is so important for the body. So, but things like gait, repeated movements, doing certain types of things over and over again can help to improve that body awareness. um, Things like doing yoga, Pilates, meditation. When's the last time that you went and tried to do a somersault or a roll out on the grass or something like that? Again, the number of adults that can't do a forward roll is it's shocking to me. uh, like I did kung fu for 8 years, and in the process of doing that, we would get the mats out and we would just try to do somersaults and rolls over your head, or rolls over your shoulder, going and doing backwards rolls and stuff like that. And again, the number of people that have issues with that to me is surprising. So there's all kinds of things with body awareness that you can improve. Again, slow down, strengthen alignment movements. So strengthening activities can allow people to work on that stronger sense of body alignment. And again, over time, you can have drastic improvements. When you start talking about issues with Body awareness when someone's doing, like in the picture, when they're doing yoga, doing something like upward dog. Again, that can be something that can be extremely beneficial. Same kind of thing with Tai Chi. Again, Tai Chi is going to be using very, very slow movements, which is going to work on balance. It'll work on proprioception. It's knowing where your body is in space. And all of those things can end up improving the person's body awareness. And that is something that's there. And again, body awareness, like, part of the problem that people have is that they end up having a problem with posture because they just don't know that their body is slumping. So some of the exercises that we give are to improve your awareness of your body so that you are more likely to recognize that you actually are slumping and to get yourself out of it. Okay, so when it comes to posture, there's multiple different ways that you can improve posture. One of them is to actually, like, do workouts that will actually improve the posture. So when it comes down to it, again, you need to know what it is to do. So for example, for slouching, if somebody slouches in a chair, there's exercises that you can use to strengthen your core and your glutes. A lot of people that sit in a chair for prolonged periods of time don't have the ability to contract their glutes the way that they should. It's called gluteal amnesia. Um, and that ends up being an issue. It ends up being a big issue when it comes to runners. Um, so things that you can do in order to help fix the posture and work on the buttocks, again, bridges, back extensions, planking can help with the core. There's other kinds of things that can help with the core, like there's things like stirring the pot, and that's going to work on the abs and really give you a good workout there. Again, doing side planks is another great thing to do for somebody that has an increased curve in the low back. So if their butt basically sticks out more than what it should, the person's going to have something called hyperlordosis. Again, core and buttock strengthening exercises are extremely important for that as well. Making sure that a person is stretched out their hip flexors and their thighs. Um, is also going to be extremely important. So, you have to have a conscious effort in order to help correct that standing posture, because it's basically with your butt sticking out, and it would be called an anterior pelvic tilt. So when someone stands, it would be trying to tuck their butt under and roll their hips under in order to stretch that out and to get into the more of a correct kind of a posture. So again, planking, and again, doing the posterior pelvic tilt when you're planking for sure, side lying leg raises, hip flexor stretches, standing thigh stretches, again, where you're grabbing your foot and bringing your heel up towards your butt. That's going to be something that can help to fix that type of postural issues. Um, travel is one of those kind of things that I know I usually have issues with uh, when it comes to trying to maintain good posture when traveling. Again, it can be challenging. So your long periods of time, like with travel, when you're going for long periods of time, sitting on an airplane, waiting around in airports. Again, when you're on an airplane, you're typically not moving your head around nearly as much. I do have the tendency to get headaches and some neck pain when I've been, doing a lot of flying, going to my like CE stuff, or when we're going off to national parks. And then you also have like carrying luggage, backpacks, all that other kind of stuff. You can have issues, and that can obviously affect your health and wellness. So for longer types of flights, making sure that you stand up and walk around, getting that circulation going every hour or two. Making sure that you go to the bathroom, even if you don't need to, just getting up. Again, flight attendants are going to be accustomed to people standing, hanging out in the bathroom areas. Obviously, don't go up near the front of the plane, but don't feel embarrassed to get around, get up and move your body and just walk around. Other people will probably be doing it too. Obviously, follow the rules and all that other kind of stuff, but get up and move. For backpacks, again, it's worth investing. You know, it's worth investing some money in a good quality backpack. Having adjustable straps, having front ties, having something that'll connect in the front, and that can help to save your shoulders and spine from a lot of unnecessary strain. And it means that you'll not need to waste a lot of time recovering from the trip, from the backpack that you're on. Making sure that you pack light. Again, if you are using a backpack or a suitcase, again, you're not really supposed to be putting more than 10% of your body weight in the backpack. So when that's basically one of the an easy kind of thing to look at. Again, if somebody's actually going backpacking, that's going to be hard. But in that kind of case, you'd actually be probably having like hip support on the backpack, and that should be something that would be obviously helpful and make it so that you can carry a little bit more. But again, packing light is going to be hard to do. A lot of people want to just take everything that they have and everything that they possibly need, uh, but you want to try to pack as light as you can. And again, you obviously need to try to um, do what you can, taking time, doing self-care when you're out there, doing your stretches, and trying to improve that posture as much as you can. So when it comes down to it, again, ultimate posture, again, it's going to be so many different aspects of the there's just so many different aspects when it comes to posture of how can it affect our lives. Again, there's going to be some issues that are going to seem again going to be part of the way that you stand, and there's multiple different things with the way that the body is connected. So there's multiple issues that can be connected where, again, people don't necessarily think of posture when it comes to breathing, but I guarantee you that it is. Again, ensuring that your posture is correct can help to um, make sure that the exercises that you are doing what they need to do. Again, no amount of working out can fix bad posture, so you have to work on the posture separately from just doing like, bench presses or whatever. Um, Again, making sure that you have good plans for the functional movement that can be something that is also very helpful. And basically, that's about it. So, again, you need to work on the posture. You need to have a plan. You need to take a look if you're having issues, or if you're not sure. You can always get a postural assessment here at the office. You can call the office or go to besttoledochiropractor.com in order to do that. Um, if you have any questions, go ahead and let us know in the comments below. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.